A small, cute girl is trying to buy ice cream, but she doesn't know what flavor she wants. It's hard for her to make a small decision like this because she has generalized anxiety disorder, which means that life can be very difficult for her sometimes. Her name is Sarah Santoro. She's very indecisive, and though her psychiatrist, Dr. Bazile, thinks she's making great progress living with her condition, she still has a hard time going through basic things, like choosing an ice cream flavor. Sarah is optimistic, though. For a year she hasn't had a panic attack and she's off her meds. At the same time, she's suspicious of everyone around her. She thinks they know a secret that she doesn't, and it makes her nervous. She meets with her dad, and one of his friends, George, tells Sarah that Peppino, the cousin of his sister-in-law, is in town. Peppino is tall, handsome, and almost an engineer. In Sarah's opinion, George thinks she's a decrepit, hopeless girl because she's almost 25 and has no relationship or kids, so he's trying to play matchmaker. Luckily, her dad saves her and tells George she needs to go when he suggests they go for a drink with Peppino. Sarah thinks George is one of the reasons she doesn't like her hometown, even though it's a nice place. The issue is that she doesn't know where she would go if she could reside anywhere. After she goes on her therapy session with Dr. Bazile, she goes home but stops by to stare at her best friend's house. Sarah and Emma grew up together, and Sarah thought they would always be with each other, but Emma met a guy and moved out with him to reside in Giverny, France. Then, she died. Sarah misses her friend, but there is nothing she can do. In a few days she's turning 25, but she has no prospect of what to do with her life. While she's staring at Emma's house and reminiscing about her life, a dog stops by and scares her. Sarah's also afraid of dogs. She fumbles to open the door to her house and then closes it quickly. The dog is left outside, whining. Sarah calls for her mom angrily because she had promised to talk to their neighbor about the dog on the loose. Her mom, Ellie, asks her to come to the dining room, and there she has a surprise, though not a good one. It's Max, Emma's brother, who moved to Milan to become an architect. Max hugs Sarah, but she's not very comfortable because she had called him many times before and he never answered. They were like siblings, though Sarah was in love with him. She wonders why he's at her home after not talking to her for so long. Sarah's mother brings them coffee, and they all sit to talk. Ellie asks Max how long he's going to be there, but he isn't sure. He hopes he can stay for some time. Ellie is excited, Sarah not so much. Her mom proceeds to ask about Max's girlfriend, a beautiful girl called Vittoria Sala, to whom Sarah's compared herself with many times. She thinks Vittoria is the luckiest girl in the universe. To her surprise, when Ellie asks if she's coming to stay with Max, he replies that they aren't together anymore. Sarah openly smiles, happy with the news. Then, Ellie tells Max that if he stays there, he can come to Sarah's birthday. She will be 25 on the 25th of August, her golden birthday. Sarah isn't looking forward to it and it shows. Ellie complains to Max about her lack of enthusiasm, and says that she's so difficult to deal with. Sarah's annoyed, but she doesn't say anything to refute her mom. When Max is leaving, he tells Sarah he's happy to see her. She replies that she's also glad. Next he starts asking about her, if she's going to a university, to which Sarah answers she quit and now she's looking for a job. Max doesn't look surprised, just disappointed. Sarah changes the subject asking if he's staying for a while, but instead of answering, Max hands Sarah an envelope. It's a letter from Emma that he found on her bedroom floor. Sarah is upset and asks Max to leave. He tries to prevent it, but she kicks him out. In her bedroom, Sarah's staring at the many pictures of Emma and her while hugging Emma's letter. She remembers a moment when they were kids at school, and the teacher calls her to the front of the class. She wasn't paying attention, but Emma called her. Instead of doing what the teacher asked, Sarah anxiously walks away from the classroom. Then, she's crying alone, but Emma finds her and comforts her. She tells her friend that she can't breathe, and Emma helps her through her anxiety attack. Ellie knocks on the door and breaks Sarah away from her memories. Sarah hides the letter from her mom. Ellie asks her if something happened. Sarah answers that nothing happened and asks her to leave her room. Ellie begrudgingly leaves and reminds Sarah of a party that day. Finally alone, Sarah starts opening the letter, but is interrupted by Max calling her. She doesn't answer. She's still upset. Later that day, Sarah's at Lucia's party with her parents. Lucia is Betta's daughter, and Betta's Ellie's best friend. Lucia is the golden child. Beautiful, successful, and she has just started her PhD. Betta and Ellie tried to force Lucia and Sarah to become friends, but it never worked. Lucia greets Sarah, then moves over to greet another person. Next, Lucia's sister, Miriam, appears. Miriam is very smart, resides in Rome, and looks like the Italian Julia Roberts. Miriam introduces Sarah to her two friends from college, Giulia and Marta. Miriam is very excited and tells her friends that the next birthday party is Sarah's, but Sarah isn't excited at all about the party. More people come to greet Sarah, asking if she has a boyfriend or if she's working. Luckily for her, Betta proposes a toast for Lucia, which prevents Sarah from answering the impertinent questions. During the toast, Sarah notices that her mother is emotional over Lucia achieving so much in life. She's bothered, but doesn't say anything. Her cell phone rings and it's Max again. Sarah calls him a liar, that she was with him when he was helping his parents pack Emma's things and that the letter wasn't amongst them. She accuses him of hiding the letter from her. Max apologizes and tries to explain, but Sarah doesn't let him speak. She and Emma had a big fight before she died, and she's carried the guilt ever since. Hanging up before he could say anything, Sarah once again stares at the letter. Finally, she has the courage to open it. In the letter, Emma says there's nothing that hurts more than arguing with Sarah, that she misses her and she feels guilty for leaving. She wanted to grow old with Sarah, but she had a husband and a life too. Then, she gives Sarah a task to honor her best friend. Write down all her fears and try to overcome them. Sarah cries a lot, then she starts drinking. In the middle of the party, she sees a lonely guy writing something. When she approaches, she asks if he's sad and he nods. Sarah thinks he's her type. Then she asks if he's sad because of love. The guy, Danny, says yes, that he's sad because of Leonardo. Another fail for Sarah. She asks Danny to take her somewhere her mother wouldn't find her because she's drunk. She almost vomits over him, but he tries to help her. They meet Miriam and her friends, and Danny knows them, so they start talking. Sarah runs to find a place she can vomit. In the following scene, Sarah is lying down while Danny, Miriam, and her friends read the letter Emma left her. They don't know what to say. Sarah tells them about her fears and how they prevent her from enjoying life and doing things she thinks would be fun. The only thing she does is draw, but she has never shown her drawings to anyone. She needs to work, but it's tough. And her love life is non-existent. Her mother calls her, and Sarah practices what she's going to say before answering it. She's desperate, afraid her mother's going to ground her for a week. Miriam saves her by taking her phone and answering the call. She tells Ellie they are going to bring Sarah back home after the party. Later on, Sarah and Miriam are in her car, and Sarah is listing the fears she needs to overcome. Her fear of the ocean, of getting her ears pierced, going to an amusement park, riding a bike, getting on a plane, showing her drawings, finding work and love. Miriam asks her where they are going to start, but Sarah is still reluctant. She thinks she's not capable of getting out of her comfort zone and facing her fears. Miriam tells her that it doesn't seem like Sarah has anxiety, because she has a normal life. Sarah explains that anxiety isn't spending the whole day curled up in a ball crying. Still, Miriam suggests she starts with the sea. Sarah is confused about why Miriam is helping her and asks her why she cares. Miriam replies that she loved Emma. The rest of the car ride is silent and Sarah is thoughtful. Suddenly, Miriam stops the car in front of a beauty pageant. She wants to sign up for it. Sarah doesn't want to go with her, but she doesn't have many options besides staying in the car by herself. So she leaves and goes home on foot. Next day, she has a terrible headache, and her mother wakes her with some news. Betta wants Sarah to work for her as a waitress at her restaurant. Sarah isn't excited at all, and asks her mother why she always has to get in her business. She is upset that her mother keeps trying to meddle in her life, and she wants to find a job on her own. Ellie promises her that she had nothing to do with the proposal. Betta was the one to call her and offer the job to Sarah after her former employee was caught stealing. Sarah doesn't want to hear her mother's excuses and leaves the bedroom to get ready for the day. She decides to go to Miriam's house to confront her about the job her mother's offering. Miriam admits to suggesting to her mom that Sarah could work for her. Sarah tells her she isn't doing the list, and Miriam replies that she doesn't care. If she wants to keep on going the way she was, she can. Then she leaves complaining that Sarah thinks she's the only one with problems. Sarah sits outside Miriam's house, desolate. Miriam comes out to talk to her, and Sarah says she's afraid of trying and messing up. Miriam says that if that happens, she only has to try again. This comforts Sarah a bit. On her next appointment with Dr. Bazile, she asks for permission to bury the list in the letter and to never mention it again. He says that if she wants a job and to be like everyone else, it's something worth following. At some point she needs to leave her comfort zone, even if it's not easy. Dr. Bazile tries to ask about Max, but their session ends right on time. Sarah is relieved she doesn't have to talk about Max. At Betta's restaurant, Sarah is working as a waitress. She's nervous to approach the customers, and she even imagines that when she serves a family, they will say bad things to her about how she's an imposter who is only pretending to be a waitress. At last, her first order arrives, and it's time to face her fears. She has to serve a couple, and despite being awkward, she manages. Next, her mother appears and she has to serve her. She's really annoyed that her mother is following her to her job, even though her mother is there to support her. Sarah tries to make her mother leave, but instead Ellie informs her she invited Max to Sarah's birthday party, and that they invited her for dinner too. She argues with her mom, and the family she imagined talking badly about her stares weirdly. It bothers her even more. Sarah doesn't want to see Max, but she decides to call his parents to cancel dinner. Instead, she confirms she's going and asks if there's anything they want her to bring. When she hangs up, she questions why she said yes when she didn't want to go. Miriam appears next to her and tells her Max isn't right for her. Sarah asks again why she cares, and tells her that she used to like Max when she was a kid, but not anymore. Miriam doesn't believe her at all. Sarah hasn't dated anyone, so Miriam suggests they go dancing. Again, Sarah denies. Miriam insists they go out somewhere, and finally convinces Sarah to go with her and her friends to an art studio. Despite her reluctance to go, Sarah's in awe watching people drawing live models. There they meet Danny, and Sarah thanks him for his help during the party. He asks her if she's there to draw, but she denies. The art teacher asks them if they are going to be part of the class, and though she's resistant, she finally relents and accepts the invitation. Danny gives her a pencil, and she sits far away from him to draw. At first, she's happy she's going to do something she loves, but then she imagines people's reactions to her drawing. People laughing, pointing out her mistakes, saying horrible things about her. For that reason, she gives up. At another session with Dr. Bazile, she tells him so far the only thing she managed to do from her list is find a job. He's happy that she did something. She could have done that list years ago if she had tried. She questions if she should be thanking Max then, and it's finally time to talk about him. Dr. Bazile asks if the reason she doesn't want to discuss him is because he reminds her of Emma. The following scene, Sarah arrives at Max's parents' house for dinner. He answers the door, then before she enters, he tells her the reason why he didn't give her Emma's letter. She had given it to him before moving to France, and he wasn't ready to touch her things. He wanted to give it to Sarah, but he couldn't. Again he apologizes, and this time, Sarah accepts. Dinner is quiet and awkward. After that, she and Max go to the beach together. Sarah tells him about her list, and he asks her to read it. She says no way, and they laugh. When she asks him when he's going back to Milan, he answers that he doesn't want to go back. He missed his hometown and Sarah. They talk some more about their lives, and Sarah admits that she could never leave her hometown. Max replies that even if she did, she wouldn't change at all. She would always be the way she is. Max has an idea of getting on a boat, and Sarah almost goes with him. At the last moment, she gives up. As Max gets out of the boat, they almost kiss. He tells her that maybe another day they could get into the boat together, and they leave. At home, Sarah is so happy she decides to draw. The next day, she goes to work again. Miriam is there, and she's waiting for Sarah to tell her how dinner went. Sarah tells her Max said he missed her after all this time, and that he's not happy in Milan. She also mentions the moment they almost kiss, and Miriam gets excited, but then Sarah clarifies they didn't kiss. Miriam's annoyed, and Sarah tries to excuse herself by saying it's been 2 years since they last saw each other and all the issues with the letter didn't make her secure enough to try. Miriam tells her that she's been chasing Max all her life, then leaves. Next, Sarah decides she's going to try to show her drawings. She goes back to the art studio, but at the last moment, she gives up. As she turns to leave, she comes face to face with Danny. Now she doesn't have an excuse to leave. Once again she tries drawing, but she's too nervous and gives up. After the class, she thanks Danny and tells him that if it weren't for him, she wouldn't even get in. He confesses he also has difficulties getting in because he used to go there with his boyfriend Leonardo. They agree to meet again for the next class, and Danny says he'll wait for her outside. Before they leave, Danny asks if Sarah is hungry and they go eat at the beach. Danny tells her a bit about himself. He has traveled a lot and lived in different places. When he asks about Sarah, she says she was accepted at a school in Rome, but she never went. They talk about Max and her list, and Sarah admits she used to have a crush on Max, that he was her first love. Danny says he understands, and that he was thinking about his first crush, a girl from his school. Sarah finds out then that Danny is bisexual. They are interrupted when people on the beach start cheering and clapping at a guy that is about to dive from a great height. Sarah instantly gets anxious and leaves. Danny goes after her. They spend the day together, and as they are going back home, Sarah meets George. Again he mentions Peppino, and as an excuse so he can't stop bothering her, she introduces Danny as her date. When George leaves, Sarah jokes that if you don't have 3 children by the age of 20, you're doomed. When they're almost at the house, she sees Max with a woman. It's Vittoria, his girlfriend. Danny offers to take her home, but she refuses. They say goodbye, and Sarah has to face Max and Vittoria alone. Max introduces them, and Vittoria says it's good to finally meet Sarah, that Max talked a lot about her. Max is uncomfortable, and Sarah finds an excuse to leave as quickly as possible. She's sad as she goes home. In the following scene, she's at Miriam's place to see the clothes she's going to wear at the beauty pageant. Sarah tells her friends about Max and Vittoria, and they trash talk him because he led her on and didn't mention he had gotten back together with his girlfriend. Sarah doesn't say anything back. Miriam walks in wearing a beautiful dress, and they're all excited, except for Sarah. To cheer her up, Miriam has the idea of dressing her up. Sarah wears cute clothes, and the girls all praise her beauty. Next, she's with Dr. Bazile again. Now, she's talking about Max and questioning what he wanted from her. Bazile suggests that she thinks about what she wants from him, and to open up to him and share her feelings. She needs to learn how to tell people what she wants. After her appointment, Sarah waits for the moment to talk to Max. She's dressed with her new clothes, and ready to tell him what she wants. Before she gets there, though, she needs to face another fear, the neighbor's dog. She goes around him and Max almost hits her with his car. He compliments her outfit, and she's all flustered. She asks where he's going, and gets in the car with him. For some time, they're quiet. Then, she gets the courage to ask about Vittoria, and Max replies that she left. He tells her that Vittoria broke up with him, but now she wants to date again. Max, though, isn't interested. He also questions Sarah about Danny, but she tells him he's just a friend. Max drives her to a cheese factory because she said she needed to buy mozzarella, and then leaves her in the middle of nowhere with no way to go back home. All because she couldn't tell him the reason why she asked for a ride in the first place. Sarah walks home and it's late when she arrives, but she's so happy she doesn't care. She has dinner with her family, but gets into an argument with her mom about who she was hanging out with, and she goes to her room angry. Still, she remembers her conversation with Max and she's happy again. Next day she's with her friends riding a bicycle. At first, she's terrible, but then she manages to ride. Then, it's time to pierce her ears. At last, she goes to the amusement park and has lots of fun. While there, she and Danny keep sharing glances. They joke around a lot and enjoy each other's presence. Her mood is ruined when Miriam mentions they should go to Paris for her birthday, and she remembers Emma. On her last birthday, Emma gave her tickets to go to Paris and celebrate there with her. Sarah reminds Emma that she has anxiety and can't even enter a plane, but Emma insists. Sarah tells her that when Emma didn't go to Rome with her so she could get married and move to France, she stayed quiet. And then she wanted Sarah to go to Paris to face her fear, and if she doesn't go, it's her fault. She gets really mad and tells Emma she left her there to be alone. And Emma retorts that she couldn't stop living her life for Sarah, and that it isn't her fault she's stuck in their hometown. Sarah gives Emma the tickets back and says she doesn't want to see her again. That was the last time Sarah saw Emma before she died. Back at the amusement park, Danny notices Sarah's serious expression and asks if she's okay. She tells him she needs to go home, and leaves. At home, she scratches the fears she conquered on her list and even adds some others. Max sends her a message asking her to try the boat again, and she agrees. She gets in the boat and they navigate for some time. They even get into a cave, and Max convinces her to jump in the water. Sarah swims and has a lot of fun with him. When they return to the beach, Max asks her what's next on her list, and she tells him she wants to celebrate her birthday in Paris. She's going there alone to meet Xavier, Emma's widower, and that bothers Max. She asks him if he doesn't like his brother-in-law, and when he doesn't answer, she tells him that it wasn't Xavier's fault that his sister died in a car accident. To her surprise, Max hugs her and apologizes. On a whim, Sarah kisses him. Max doesn't respond, and Sarah abruptly leaves. She's sad that he didn't kiss her back. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she packs her bags and goes to Paris without telling anyone. At the airport, she gets a panic attack and cries. She can't board and returns home. On her next therapy session, Dr. Bazile tells her she didn't regress only because she couldn't board the airplane. Sarah doesn't believe him. When she returns home, she has a surprise when Xavier is waiting for her with her birthday present. They eat some cake while Xavier tries to make her feel better. As they talk about Emma, Xavier tells her that she was afraid of many things too, and Sarah is surprised because Emma had never told her that. The doorbell rings and another surprise, Max brings her flowers. He tries to enter her house, but Sarah stops him. When he sees Xavier, he isn't happy at first. Xavier greets him and it looks like Max won't greet him back, but he decides to give him a shot. It's finally Sarah's party, and all her friends and family are there to celebrate with her. She's really happy that everything went well and she managed to conquer so many fears that she had never imagined she could. Now there's only one item on the list, love. It's also the hardest. She tried it with Max, and it didn't work out. As for him, Max hasn't disclosed his feelings to Sarah, so she doesn't really know how he feels about her. In a surprising turn of events, Max comes to Sarah at her party and gives her a passionate kiss. This time, it's Sarah who breaks up the kiss and steps away. Max is confused. He thought she liked him after she kissed him on the beach. But Sarah realizes that wasn't what she wanted. Max is a great guy. She had a crush on him for most of her life, but he isn't the right choice for her. He's embarrassed and tries to leave. Sarah doesn't want him to go, because even if they wouldn't work out in a relationship, he's still important to her, and a big part of her life. She hugs him tight, as if she's hugging the fond memories of her past, not only with Max, but with Emma as well. Their hug is interrupted by Danny, who is interested in Sarah's more than friends, but he thinks she likes Max. He grabs his jacket and tells Sarah it was a great party. Then, he hurriedly leaves the scene, so he doesn't have to be in the middle of two lovebirds. The next day, Sarah wakes with a loud horn blaring and Miriam yelling her name. She has no idea what she wants, but she's happy that her friends are there. When they are in Sarah's bedroom, Miriam confesses to having alopecia because of her stressful life. She's always trying to be perfect in everything she does, and the only reason she was trying the beauty pageant was to feel beautiful again. She wants to shave her head and asks Sarah to do it, because in her opinion, Sarah's the bravest girl she knows, and she inspired Miriam to be herself, even if sometimes it hurts. It's surprising for Sarah to be called brave. All her life she thought she was a coward, especially after her fight with Emma. What she's slowly realizing is that even though her life is hard at times, what matters is that she still tries. And that is inspiring for her friends. At the beauty pageant, a lot of beautiful girls show off their best assets. It's a tough competition, so it surprises everyone when Miriam walks in almost bald. She's proudly showing off her alopecia, and her friends and family cheer up. It's inspiring to see that beauty can go beyond perfect hair and makeup. Unfortunately, Miriam and the other girls don't reside in Apulian, so they're going to leave soon to go back to Rome. Sarah will be alone once again, and she still has no plans. Now, though, the future seems a bit brighter for her than before. She knows if she sets her mind to things, she can do whatever she wants. She only needs to try harder. And it's about time for her to change her life like she's always wanted to. Back at home, she adds more items to her list. And the first one is Rome. She asks Dr. Basil if he thinks she's ready for it, but he leaves the answer to her. It's up to Sarah to find out if she's ready or not, and she feels she is. Now, she needs to tell her parents. Ellie isn't supportive of Sarah's decision. After all, Sarah doesn't have money, a job, or any prospects about what she's going to do. Sarah doesn't care anymore. Before, she'd fret about all the downsides of moving to Rome, like her mother was doing. If she stays, though, once again she will be back on her routine and the life she never wanted to have. She finally has a chance to do something different, and she's going to take it. Her friends are all supportive. Miriam even helps her pack. And while she waits for Sarah to finish putting her things away, she takes a peek at her sketchbook. Sarah catches her doing it, but she doesn't mind. It's the first time someone is going to see her drawings, and Miriam is surprised with her talent. She finds a drawing of Danny and asks Sarah about her feelings towards him. Maybe he's the shot she needs at love. They meet at the beach and Sarah gives him a gift. It's the drawing she's made of him the day they hung out for the first time. Danny loves it. He thinks it's a beautiful drawing. Sarah's happy he likes it. She confesses to him that she's afraid she's going to screw up her opportunity in Rome, like she used to do. Danny holds her hands in his and stares deeply into her eyes to ask if she wants to go to Rome. She says yes, and they stare at each other for a moment. Sarah sees the moment as the perfect chance she has of confessing her feelings, but not every habit can be broken so fast. She lets go of his hands and starts rambling about things she needs to do before she goes to Rome. What she didn't expect was for Danny to grab her and kiss her passionately. When they separate, Sarah can't stop smiling. She asks Danny where he's going to go next, and he tells her that may be Rome. Once more, people start cheering and clapping, and when they turn to look, it's the same man from before ready to dive. This time, Sarah doesn't run. She watches as the man dives into the water. It's another fear conquered, and she's more than ready to go to Rome. She says goodbye to her family and goes to Rome with Miriam. Max is in his boat, and he sees a framed picture inside. It's a drawing of him, made by Sarah. George, Dr. Basil, Betta, and her parents also receive drawings from Sarah.